Hello and welcome to the Luv Doc podcast with hosts Waldo Wachewski and Ophelia Brewski.
Okay, so you've been dating this divorced dad for over a year now. Things are good with his son, but the constant comparisons to his ex are starting to wear you down. And it's not just coming from the boyfriend, it's his friends too.
Oh, that's tough.
Yeah, it is. It's a sticky situation, right?
Yeah.
How do you address this issue without rocking the boat in an otherwise good relationship?
Yeah, that's the question, isn't it?
It is, and that's what we're diving into today.
All right, I'm ready.
And get this, the Luv Doc goes on this wild tangent about Elon Musk, Donald Trump, and Nazis.
Whoa, what?
I know, right? What does that have to do with relationship advice? Well, stick with us, you'll see.
Okay, I'm intrigued.
So let's recap from your letter. It sounds like you're caught in this awkward compliment trap. Your boyfriend means, well, he clearly wants you to feel good, and maybe he's overcompensating for past relationship issues.
Yeah, makes sense.
But constantly being compared to his ex, even favorably, isn't exactly a confidence booster.
Right, it's like he's trying to reassure you that you're better than the ex, but in doing so, he just keeps bringing her up.
Yeah.
Exactly.
It's almost like he can't help himself.
And then there are the friends. They're another layer of helpfulness that just makes it worse.
Oh, yeah, for sure. They're less invested in the relationship, so their comparisons can feel even more insensitive. You know what I mean?
Totally. It's like they're trying to convince you and maybe even themselves that you're the superior choice.
Yeah, yeah.
But it just ends up feeling awkward and frankly a little demeaning.
Totally agree.
And let's not forget about the son. He's a teenager and he's already figured out that making these comparisons is not cool.
You're right. It sounds like the son might be more mature about this whole situation than the adults.
It's true. It shows he's adjusted well to the new family dynamic and respects your boundaries.
Interesting how that dynamic plays out. Sometimes you think the adults would be more aware of these things.
I know, right? So the question is, how do you navigate this? You want to address the issue, but you don't want to create unnecessary drama.
And this is where the advice columnist gets really interesting. They dive into this whole thing about Elon Musk, Donald Trump, and the historical implications of good intentions.
Okay, this should be good.
Essentially, they're arguing that even powerful figures with good intentions can make mistakes.
Yeah, sure.
Patience is a virtue, but there are limits, especially when dealing with egocentric individuals who fail to understand the impact of their actions.
That's a bold comparison to bring in those figures, but I think I see where they're going with this.
Me too. It's like they're trying to illustrate this point that just because someone means well, it doesn't give them a free pass to act in ways that hurt or disrespect others.
I see that.
And how does that relate back to your situation, you might ask? Well, think about it. While your boyfriend's comparisons might come from a good place, he wants you to feel special. They're still having a negative impact on you.
Yeah, I get it.
His good intentions don't negate the fact that his words are making you feel uncomfortable. And that's where we'll pick things up after a quick word from our sponsors. All right, we're back. And, we were talking about how even good intentions can sometimes lead to negative consequences.
Right.
Or it doesn't give you a free pass.
Yeah.
And the Luv Doc used some pretty extreme examples, Elon Musk, Donald Trump, to make this point. It's like saying, just because someone is powerful or successful doesn't mean they're always right or that their actions are always justified.
Exactly. And I think it's important to remember that in personal relationships, right? Because feelings are involved.
Huge point. So getting back to your situation, it sounds like you've been pretty patient with your boyfriend and his friends.
Yeah.
You've kind of let these comparisons slide probably because you didn't want to make a big deal out of it or maybe hurt his feelings.
Totally understandable. Nobody wants to start a fight.
Right, exactly. Yeah. And that's where the Luv Doc's take really resonated with me.
Yeah.
They basically said if your boyfriend wants to compliment you, he needs to find ways to do it without bringing up his ex.
Yeah, that's good advice.
Right. Come on, if his teenage son can figure that out.
Right.
Surely the grown-ups can too.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, it's not about asking him to stop complimenting you altogether.
No, of course not.
It's about helping him understand how his current approach is making you feel.
I think that's where communication comes in. You need to have an open and honest conversation with your boyfriend about how these comparisons are affecting you.
Okay, so how do you approach this? How do you bring this up without sounding like you're complaining or being overly sensitive?
That's a good question.
Holy crap. You're psychotically obsessed with the Luv Doc, but can't think of a flashy gauche way to share your obsession with the world? Stop thinking and make a beeline for the Luv Doc's home sweet home on the interwebs, thepleasurecraft.com, where you can find a veritable treasure trove of sick merch that will make even your coolest friends super gel. Honestly, I don't know why you didn't already think of this yourself, but you're welcome. Have fun on the pleasure craft. It was made just for you. Let me spell it out for you one more time. www.thepleasurecraft.com.
I think framing it from a place of vulnerability can be helpful.
Okay.
You can start by expressing that you appreciate his intentions,
Right.
but explain that being constantly compared to his ex makes you feel insecure and like you're not being seen for who you are. You know, it's like saying, hey, I love that you think I'm funny, but I'd love it even more if you could tell me that without bringing up your ex.
I see. So it's about focusing on how his words are making you feel,
Yeah.
rather than accusing him of intentionally trying to hurt you.
Exactly. And, you know, he might not immediately understand why this is such a big deal for you,
Okay.
but that's where patience comes in. You know, you might need to gently but firmly reiterate your point a few times before it sinks in. You're kind of teaching him how to communicate with you in a way that makes you feel good.
I like that. So it's about helping him see things from your perspective.
Right.
And it's not about trying to change him
No.
or control his behavior, but rather just explaining how his words are impacting your experience in the relationship.
And it's also important to remember that you're not responsible for his emotional baggage or past relationship issues.
That's such a good point.
Yeah, this is something he needs to work through on his own.
Right. It's easy to fall into the trap of trying to fix or compensate for a partner's past hurts,
Yeah.
but ultimately, each individual is responsible for their own emotional well-being.
Absolutely. And that goes both ways, right? Like
Yeah.
you need to prioritize your own happiness and emotional needs in this relationship.
Okay, so let's say you have this conversation, you express your feelings, and things still don't change. What then? Like, what are your options if he continues to make comparisons, even after you've explained how it makes you feel?
That's a tough spot to be in. I think it might be a sign that he's not quite ready to let go of the past or that he's not fully attuned to your emotional needs.
Okay.
And if that's the case, you need to ask yourself if this is a pattern of behavior you're willing to tolerate in the long run.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes even with the best intentions, relationships just don't work out.
And that's okay. You know, it's better to recognize incompatibility early on than to try to force something that's not meant to be. You deserve to be with someone who sees you, appreciates you, and celebrates you for who you are without constantly looking back at the past.
Yeah, and that really brings us back to the core of this whole deep dive.
Right.
Recognizing your worth and advocating for yourself in relationships.
Absolutely. It's about setting boundaries, communicating your needs, and being willing to walk away from a situation that's no longer serving you.
And, you know, this whole discussion about comparisons to an ex.
Yeah.
It's not just about romantic relationships. It's about any relationship where you're being constantly measured against someone else's yardstick.
Absolutely. It could be at work in friendships, even within families.
Right.
The principle remains the same. You deserve to be valued for who you are, not for how you stack up against someone else.
And that's a great note to end on. We'll be right back after a short break with some final thoughts on how to apply these insights to your own life. All right, we're back, and I really want to leave you with some key takeaways from today's deep dive. We've covered a lot, you know, from awkward compliments and navigating those ex comparisons to that surprising connection with Elon Musk.
Yeah, who knew?
I know, right? And the importance of setting boundaries. And, you know, it's not just about romantic relationships. This applies to any situation where you're feeling constantly measured against someone else's standard.
It's so true.
Whether it's a work with friends or even within your own family, you deserve to be valued for who you are, not for how you stack up against someone else.
Absolutely. And remember, communication is key if you're feeling uncomfortable or disrespected. It's so important to speak up and express your needs. You know, sometimes the other person might not even realize the impact of their words or actions.
That is so true. And often people don't intend to be hurtful, but they can be blinded by their own perspective.
Exactly.
And that's why having those open and honest conversations is so important.
It really is. And even if the other person doesn't immediately understand or change their behavior, voicing your concerns is still valuable. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
It shows that you're not willing to tolerate being treated in a way that makes you feel less than.
And that ultimately is the biggest takeaway from today's deep dive.
Right.
You deserve to be in relationships where you feel seen, appreciated, and respected for who you are, full stop.
Yes. And if you're not getting that, it's okay to walk away. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do for yourself is to create space for healthier and more fulfilling connections.
Such wise words. So To our listener who's been grappling with this issue of constant comparisons to her boyfriend's ex, we encourage you to take what you've learned today and apply it to your situation. Have that open and honest conversation with your boyfriend. Explain how his words are making you feel and see if he's willing to listen, understand, and adjust his behavior.
And no matter what happens, you've already taken a huge step just by recognizing your worth and advocating for your needs, and that's something to be proud of.
Couldn't have said it better myself. And remember, you're not alone in this. We all face these kinds of challenges in our relationships. It's part of being human.
That's the truth. So keep diving deep, keep those conversations flowing, and keep advocating for yourself.
Love it. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the world of relationships, comparisons, and the power of knowing your worth. Until next time.
To read the column that spawned this podcast, go to austinchronicle.com/columns/the Luv Doc. There are probably worse things to do with your time, right?